Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday, I guess it is. And we are here with Jael O'Hare, which we love Jael. So, Jael had approached us with a topic, which is astrology and reality testing. So, Jael, I guess take it away on what you got going here.
Awesome. So reality testing is sort of a psychological term, and I'm kind of using it slightly loosely in that way. But I know for myself, which I can very much verify with my chart, my natal chart. I'm very good at seeing other people's perspectives, which can be great. But I also get confused about when I have conflicts with people. A lot of times I can't kind of figure out whether or not my perception is correct or not. And I'm always looking for tools. I will say, as a side note, I think a lot of people who are neurodivergent, particularly autistic folks, have this issue a lot, and also are sort of set up well for the type of tool that I'm about to present. So I wanted to start with, like, what is reality testing, and at least in this framework that we're using right now, is it's it's sort of I'm specifically referring to when you're having a conflict interpersonally, or it could even be an internal conflict, but there has to be sort of like two versions of reality of what's happening. So I mean, there's plenty of conflicts where there's a shared reality but a disagreement. But there are certain types of conflicts that you can have where one person is saying, or one side is saying, this is the truth of what happened, and then the other person's thinking a totally different thing happened.
Mhm.
Um, so I also wanted to really underline, I should say, that what this tool is not for is deciding who's right in an argument.
Okay.
um, First of all, that is so subjective, and um, yeah, I think, you know I just want to present this with like a heaping dose of caveat, because if you did use it that way, like, I could see it could be harmful, both to yourself or to other people, and we don't like that. But if you are, like me, a person who is genuinely feeling confused about something, then and you want to reflect in a more sort of objective way. Now, astrology as a tool in general, can be a tool like that, to sort of be like, step back and be like, what are the mechanics of this situation, like, in describing dynamics and describing these things. And then, particularly, sort of borrowing from the horary rules and context, which I also want to just say, I'm not a horary expert, but
Uh-huh.
I do study traditional astrology, among other things, and I think what's cool about the horary sort of methodology, if you will, is that you are, like, there are distinct, clear. It's not like a subjective, like, oh, vibes or whatever. It's like, no, this
Mhm.
person is that, this person is this, they have this relationship. So it can give you a sort of like long view mechanical perspective of dynamics and things that are happening.
Mhm. Yeah, I hear you that horary is one kind of astrology that says like this, not this. Like the hidden sock is under the couch. It's not like like how's this person feel or so I get you there with what you're saying. Yeah.
So okay, so we did intentions. The other part, which is, this is just like a basic horary like rule to begin with, is that um the question being asked has to be a clear yes or no question that has a, like, verifiable answer. So, like, for example, a bad horary question is going to be like, when will I meet the love of my life, or something, like, it's a little bit, or like, is he the one, or something. Like, those are a little bit too vague. But yeah, like, where's my lost sock is a specific question.
Yeah.
Or and for this specific tool, I want to propose that all of the questions will be some form of, is my assessment correct? So the answer that you can get from that is I mean, it's yes or no, but it's also like a lot more nuanced than that. You know, you can kind of see like, you know, it's not, there might be a general yes or no, but like it's also going to be yes or no with things like these are your blind spots, or like this is the perspective of the other person, or you know, that kind of stuff.
Mhm. So you're saying a horary person often gives a yes or no, but they also give like not caveats, but they're like, and this condition will also be true. Like, so I don't know, because for people listening, a lot of people probably don't know what horary astrology is, and so maybe we need to describe that a little bit. Like horary is a
Yeah,
certain kind of astrology where you ask a question to a moment, like you say, you cast a chart for the moment that the question is asked, and you say like, should I marry John or Paul? And then you ask the horary, and so you're kind of supposition today in today's episode is that we can use horary to kind of test reality in some ways, right?
right. And what's another kind of thing that's cool about that is that you're asking a question that, like, the chart itself is a chart that is independent from your chart, or from maybe if you have the other person's chart. Because again, if you're in a conflict with somebody and you know your chart or you know their chart or whatever, there's sort of there might be a tendency, or a like a higher tendency for maybe some bias about what you know about those things to make determinations. But the chart being cast for the moment of the question is not related to anybody's natal chart, and it only talks about the matter. So you're really looking at the matter at hand. And I mean, we'll get to this part later, but you can also look at the horary as a transit chart to your natal chart and then see how that is interacting with your chart,
Hmm.
for like additional layers, which is really interesting. But it kind of just depends. Like, you could go so deep with this, or you can kind of get a snappy.
Yeah. Well, so I like what you're saying is that just like a tarot reading is independent from a chart, so is a horary chart. It's like a moment of divination. It's not like a natal teleological thing, right? It's like but I like what you're saying that you can look at like a transit to natal because you can say in the moment that this question was asked, what was my soul up to, you know, because the horary works a lot by you know the psyche of man around the time of question, and I see where that transit is relevant to the natal chart, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
So you want to hop into the process?
Yes,
All right.
to.
So the first step before you're even ready to cast the chart or ask the question is to go. There's like a couple steps you want to go through. So first, you want to go through, like, write down if you're like journaling or whatever, but just go through like, what are the facts, not like perceptions, but like what happened. So
Mm,
like in like an example chart that we may or may not get to later, which is, this was sort of, I should back up. I got the idea for this, because this is something I deal with a lot, but also because I was having a conflict with a couple of the moderators in a Facebook social media group that regards true sidereal or constellational astrology specifically.
yeah.
And man, I swear it always causes a ruckus. But this last time that the New York Times just recently put out that article of why tropical is wrong and astrology is fake, because no astrologers have ever heard of precession, um, which is just not true. If
Yeah.
they ever interviewed any actual astrologer, it could be explained in 30 seconds. But
Yeah, totally. Well, it's like the classic, like also Ophiuchus. It's like, oh, now we're doing the Ophiuchus thing again. It's like but yeah, if for some reason astrology, one of the fun ways that people like to deal with it is with skepticism and like fighting it as a pseudoscience or whatever. But that's just part of being an astrologer, is like those fights, I feel like.
yeah.
But I have to say, is the Mars Uranus opposition on your Mars Uranus?
Oh yeah. No, I'm
Oh
in
yeah.
my Uranus opposition right now, and all of this is being activated, and it is very much coming up.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like I've been thinking of you the last few days. I'm just like, oh, how's he doing? Like, what's up?
It's been rough. Also because this last full moon is activating my natal moon also,
Oh,
and Chiron. The my Chiron is opposite of that Mars Uranus
oh my
natally
God.
from the third house.
Oh my God. Interesting.
So you know, and I will actually I was planning on even getting to that a little bit later, but like yes, do I have a wound around communicating and being understood? Absolutely.
Like
It's quite
thousands of percent.
it's basically my entire chart that is that. But
Yeah.
um I digress.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So wait, I was gonna finish saying something about the
So we were talking
oh
about how you were in this group and you got
yeah.
in a fight or
So one of the moderators in the group, and by the way, I've been in this group for many years, and you know, there's the small group of people who are there the most. We all kind of know each other, even though we haven't met in real life.
Mhm.
But one of the moderators in the group had posted the New York Times article with a caption of like, finally, people are saying the truth or whatever. And so I had commented like, hey, you know, like I mean, I'm in the group because my sort of like what I'm working on philosophically when it comes to astrology is that and actually just sort of philosophically in general is sort of like the proposal that we stop saying this versus that and understand how everything can be integrated, and that the sort of like correct way to understand things is to integrate them and understand what their perspectives are and kind of like everything in its right place.
Mm.
So I had commented kind of being like, hey, like, you know, I tried to disprove the validity of the tropical zodiac through research, and it actually just proved what a beautiful, elegant, extremely sophisticated philosophical system it is. And you know, that led me to understanding what it is versus what the constellations are or the fixed stars are. And I use fixed stars and constellations and the tropical zodiac in my practice, because I think that both the stars and, well, also because, like, to sum it up, the tropical zodiac is sacred geometry. And I believe that physics and science has shown us that there's like the fine structure content constant, the golden ratio, Fibonacci, the, you know, phi. I am personally of the belief that the universe has a mathematical structure to it, and because that is true, um, it's sort of calculable. Now, again, because I'm Mr. Paradox over here, I also
Mhm.
believe that in order to actually calculate anything like with 100% accuracy, you would have to know all variables,
Mm.
and that is impossible. So there's like a duality there of it being calculable because it's mathematic, but also incalculable and like its interpretation fallible, because any given practitioner is going to be limited in both the variables they can calculate and perhaps also their interpretation of the symbols,
Wow. Interesting.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited about all this. I think this is super cool. I'm so into all of this stuff. I think it's really interesting. And, you know, my friends who aren't astrologers, like, God bless them, of course, are going to glaze over if I give them a 3-hour lecture about
Yeah.
phi in the, you know, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Come give us a lecture. We like your lectures.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. But like, you know, so I'm like, okay, you know, I feel like I have the rapport with this group of people, um, that maybe they would be interested in my perspective of sort of like, I've been thinking of it as like meta modernist astrology, because that's like a philosophical thread that I'm interested in, which is basically the integration, the meta perspective, the integrated perspective.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I spent like, honestly, way like hours like kind of like putting together all of this stuff. And like Vic DeCara has already, who's a Vedic astrologer who started off as a siderealist, in his direct translating of Rig Veda and Surya Siddhanta and the Puranas and other things, actually came to the conclusion through his own studies that the Vedic astrologers, the classical Vedic astrologers, used both a tropical and a sidereal zodiac. The
Whoa.
tropical for the 12 sign and the nakshatra for the, or moon mansions basically, is the sidereal.
So I want everyone to be clear about what's happening. So Jael was in a group that was talking about sidereal astrology, or it's like that was the whole point of the group. And Jael kind of started not arguing, but kind of started presenting alternate options to the sidereal zodiac. And so, and now Jael has a Mars Uranus conjunction in Sag, which is getting hit off by Uranus and Gemini right now, which is going to, bring kind of feistiness around the fun of contentious ideas. I mean, that's part of the fun for Jael right now. But there was the person who was running the group didn't take very nicely to Jael's kind of musings about the both, right?
Yes, I mean, that was my perception. So that's kind of like where the reality testing came in, because the conflict ended up being about them feeling like I was being overly emotional and reacting irrationally and negatively, and
Wow.
to their responses. And I felt like the way that they responded was like rude and not respectful. So because
Wow.
basically the one moderator that I sort of the conflict started with, who was the one who actually asked me to post the information, which is I mean, again, I wasn't going, despite the Mars Uranus thing, I actually don't like to start conflict.
Really?
No.
Well, in Astro Move places that they were tone policing you. There's someone in the chat saying that you were getting tone policed.
I mean, that was probably correct. But so my
Watch your
Mars
tone,
Uranus
Jael.
is ruled by Jupiter, but I'm a Pisces ascendant. Okay. And
Okay.
not to mention that, but I have mutual reception with my Jupiter is tight conjunct moon in Scorpio in the 9th house. So
Yeah.
like I don't actually enjoy, and then of course I have that stellium in the 8th house in Libra, Mercury, Saturn, Pluto.
Hmm.
So I feel like it is like I feel like I need to act from my values and to try to be fair and see other people's perspectives. Sun in the 7th, Venus in the 7th,
Hmm.
both challenged in Virgo.
Hmm.
Um, and I do try to see people's perspective, but I also feel like I have to stand up for what's right. I got to stand up for the underdog. So it's kind of like I don't enjoy it, but I like kind of feel like I have to do it. Like I don't like it when people act like bullies or people are doing stuff that I think is like that goes against my values. So and I'm also just a truth seeker. Like this started out, speaking of the Scorpio thing, deep research, right? I love research. Sagittarius, I love information, like I love to like share and discuss philosophy. I love to dive deep, and like this is a group of astrology nerds. So like it started with me being like, hey, astrology nerds, here's my fun like nerdy thing. And I thought, since the moderator had invited me to do it, that it wasn't like that it wouldn't be received as me coming in and be like, you guys are all wrong and let's have a fight.
Hmm. Wow, wow, interesting. Well, one of the things I noticed about martial individuals is if they have a perception or something's happened in their life where they know a certain thing, and and the people in the room don't know it, they have to say it. Like for example, I was in this room recently where it was like a support group for highly sensitive people or something,
Yep.
and they were basically saying like I have no idea what makes us highly sensitive, and there's no, like they were kind of going on and on about like there was no way to know, and this woman was talking about feeling energies and stuff, and so like finally I had to raise my hand and be like, well, I'm an astrologer, and we actually do say that some people have a more sensitive temperament than others, and like that is in the build of the system. But like I sat on my hands for like 20 minutes, and then I'm a Mars person. I like had to say something,
Yeah.
But like I feel like because of your experience of what you have learned to know, and you are martial, you're not trying to start a fight, but you are trying to add in a layer to the equation that you know, and that takes the cojones of a Mars. You know what I mean?
Yes, it does. And this is actually, interesting to bring this in too, because the Mars Uranus thing is the most visible part of my chart. And it's actually arguably kind of the only thing that people see about me, especially if they don't know me really well, because my stellium of Pluto, Saturn, Mercury is in the eighth house, i.e., it's occulted, it's sort of like hidden. And then my moon Jupiter is in Scorpio in the ninth house. So it's like all of that. And then my sun is in seventh house. So it's like all of my chart is like kind of obscured, except for this Mars Uranus. And then it's squaring my ascendant opposite my Chiron. So I like what happens with people that I get along with is they can see the other part. And
Mm-hmm.
Because I do lead with this sort of like integrity, values based thing, and then I'm like very scientific too. Like I try to be fair and objective in the things I do. And to be fair, that Saturn Mercury, like that's exalted Saturn there, like it's actually, I dare I say, I'm good at making objective judgments, and it's in Libra. Like it's objective, and it's for the promotion of harmony and relating, and it's like eighth house, so it's like deep and psychological and all of these things. So I actually am pretty good at making assessments, but I also doubt myself, which is part of the reason I'm good at making them.
Interesting.
Because I'm willing to challenge myself.
Yeah, interesting. So you basically brought up some alternate views kind of calmly, and then there was like kind of a skirmish, and then you got emotional, and then they said you were too emotional.
Well, what happened was the moderator that it started with, without having actually looked at the information I presented, started commenting a lot very casually, which, by the way, is the norm in the group. And I really want to acknowledge that, because there's sort of like a group narrative, particularly among the base members and the moderators, that's sort of like this attitude of like, the true sky is the real astrology, man, and everybody else is stuck in the matrix, and like, like the
Yeah.
sheeple, or you know what I mean, that kind of thing. And like, there's like a little bit, I'm not trying to like paint, I'm sure there's different things with individual people, but like that is an attitude that I have generally perceived. And honestly, it's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But like, I'm also not like, I've been in the group for a long time, but I do kind of hang back. Like I get bullied in groups a lot. I don't really do well in groups in a general way. Neptune in the 11th house.
You're gonna have to start a group where you can bully people.
I don't like to bully. I like to stick up to bullies. But I mean, that's the other thing. I have Neptune in Capricorn in the 11th house squaring my sun. So,
Oh yeah.
There's groups are hard for me, and like I've felt either bullied or deceived or whatever frequently, or felt confused about groups and social things. And I don't feel like a lot of belonging, kind of like going my own way.
Well, so tell us a little bit about how this led to reality testing for Horary.
Okay. Let me just give the last detail. So the thing that the dispute started over was that the moderator was commenting that it was his opinion, or I mean, he didn't say opinion. He kind of made truth statements about the fact that tropical is based on ignorance and delusion, and ignorance upon delusion, and like he just kind of kept commenting like things that I don't know, I feel like are objectively very dismissive. But like and I'm kind of like, that's fine if you believe that, but like I already know you believe that, and the point was you're supposed to look at the evidence that I gave you. Like, I'm giving you clear evidence that the people who developed the tropical zodiac knew precession existed, and they chose the intersection of the vernal equinox and the celestial yes, the vernal equinox, which is the intersection of the celestial equator and the ecliptic. So like the path of the sun and the celestial equator. That was chosen on purpose. And because, I mean, the thema mundi, oh my God, like when you really study how the original 12 sign zodiac was developed and why, it's I mean, dude, the philosophy of it blows my mind, and it's really cool. Which again, I was excited about and I want to share. But then I felt very disrespected by the fact that he'd asked me to show my thoughts and evidence, and then I gave the evidence, and then he didn't look at it, and then he was like, it's, you know, it's the dark lens of zeitgeist, and like it might be useful for seeing what delusions people are under, but it's like not real astrology. That was the other thing he said. It's not even real astrology. Only true sky astrology is real astrology. It's not even, it's like at best maybe a divination tool, and sacred geometry is like a neat trick, but it doesn't have any relevance, and like,
Wow.
you know, those kind of stuff. So I did feel upset about that. And I don't know. I don't really think that I like went crazy or anything, but you know, I was starting to feel defensive, and like I was like, hey, will you like engage with this, please? And then I gave an example stuff, and he picked one thing from the list and then started like trying to disprove that the one thing that I said was valid. And you know, so I was just kind of like, I started to get upset. And with my own, what happens for me in groups is that like, as soon as that dynamic starts happening, I know exactly what happens next. The wagons circle, I get ganged up on, and
You
then
call your bodyguard.
see, I need one.
Yeah,
So
you do.
I actually do. So I do a thing that I like to call taking my toys and going home.
Oh.
Because in the past, younger, I mean, for me, this constitutes growth, right? Because in the past, what I would do is like get really upset. And hello, Moon and Scorpio with Jupiter, I'm an intense motherfucker. Excuse my French. I
Yeah.
am intense. I am emotionally intense. Okay. Like, and intellectually intense. Like, I am an intense person. So, but my experience has been that the way that I am breaks hidden social mores and laws, and other people feel that I am in the wrong because I'm not sort of like conforming to social, like, like informal social dynamics, not to mention again autism, not even clocking it half the time. I'm like stepping in all the time on accident. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
basically I was like,
I can
I
attest to that
didn't
because
come here to,
Jael has been upset with me before.
no,
I
I
can attest.
haven't.
You have been upset and you got
No, no,
intense.
no. Actually, this is great. I can explain this too. So, with you guys, when I had the thing, it wasn't that I was mad at you or I felt upset with you. What I felt was that I didn't perform in a way that made me understandable. And when I am misunderstood, I feel bad.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also like sometimes can start like spiraling into like an over explaining, which usually makes it worse, if I'm being honest. I mean, I always think if I explain more, it'll make it better, but then I'm just like digging my grave while I'm explaining.
Well, I think we found the right format for you, which is just you and me, which where you can be loquacious enough to get your points out. I mean, I think for me, as an looking at you as a very strong artist, it's like that was my mistake by putting you in with the group, but I didn't know that there's a time sensitive thing that you were up to, so I tried to put you into the first slot I could, and it wasn't necessarily the best format for you as an artist. So I'm sorry for that.
Oh, and that's, but again, the reason that I would not say that I was mad at any of you guys is because I already know what the dynamics are and what happens when I'm in those situations. And
Mhm.
the thing that makes me upset with people is what actually happened next in my dispute with the other astrology group. With you guys, I, you know, for a variety of reasons about the way that I communicate, it just wasn't being clear and there was a misunderstanding, but I felt no malice or ill intent. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
what happened is the second moderator started coming in and saying, no one is fighting but you. I'm sorry that you see reality incorrectly and think that people are attacking you when they're not attacking you.
Wow.
And you're being like, I can't remember if they actually called me hysterical or just sort of implied it, but like, you know, she was saying like, you lost your ever living mind on this person and you're villainizing us and you're this and that. And like, you know, you're just like, but the thing is, that's not even true. Because again, I don't think that those people are bad people. I actually don't. I know what their perspective is.
Yeah.
And I know that in that group, the group camaraderie is kind of built around having like a special knowledge and having like a kind of rebellious astrological practice. And frankly, who am I to take that from anybody? Like, it actually
Yeah.
was a very disruptive thing for me to come in and do that, frankly. I mean, again, that was not my intention, but like on a deeper level, it was disruptive. And so, like, I kind of understand where they're coming from. I also understand that in like normal social emotional interactions, like I there's a way that I like see cut like deeply down into what power dynamics are, and it's socially weird and like I don't know, considered aggressive or shitty to point out dynamics when they're happening, unless they're like extremely egregious. So like, and this is what I was saying about the part of my empathetic self and like able to see kind of a global view is occulted from other people because they're just seeing the Mars part.
Hmm.
And I don't actually mean to be like, I'm not actually trying to attack them, but from my extremely literal like autism brain, I'm like, yeah, but like what you said is literally a logical fallacy. And like calling somebody's belief system ignorant and delusional and then saying, well, I didn't call you ignorant and delusional, I called the case that you made ignorant and delusional. To me, that is like a splitting hairs
Mm.
kind of distinction that doesn't really matter, and it still felt disrespectful to me. And what would have repaired the situation is if or not apologies even, but just like an effort to make a repair had happened.
Mm.
And there was a repair attempt, except for the repair. I mean, I don't think it was a real repair attempt, but I think the two of them thought they were making a repair attempt because, the first one said, I'm sorry that you misunderstood me, basically. I'm sorry that this has gotten so upsetting. I'm sorry that this is whatever. But like, it's still the apology blamed me and was like about me misunderstanding and not about, and it was kind of like, you're welcome back anytime, but also like subtext, if you agree that you were wrong, essentially.
Have you heard of the histrionic personality disorder?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I got so sick of people, all my actors getting called narcissists. I was like, just tell them you're histrionic, because it's like narcissist is so like overdone. I'm like, no, you're just like histrionic, which means basically means hysterical by nature, doesn't it? Like, so I think you could classify yourself as like a little bit histrionic, but like it's got his in it, histrionic. I mean, you know.
I mean, I don't love that personally, but that's fine.
Dude, I'm trying to be histrionic. You should have seen Ricky yesterday. He was just popping off. With the
Well,
Mars Uranus opposition, everyone is just losing their cookies. So
oh yeah, no, it's crazy. Um, I mean, I think that I think that I have big emotions for sure, but I mean, I think the reason I want to disagree with that is because there's in part of the diagnosis of histrionic has, I think, also something to do with like not having a good touch with reality.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Um, and I agree that my communication style can be abrasive and that I also frequently am way overly verbose and give way too much information, and people aren't able to understand it, so they're just kind of like reacting to my energy and being like, but like, I can't help it, this is my chart, this is like literally how I am. And I have spent my entire life trying to be like at all times, like keep it in, keep it down, be smaller, like, and it's exhausting, man. It's freaking
Why
exhausting.
don't you have your own YouTube channel where you just talk every day?
I mean, I probably should. I think I'm also sensitive, like I don't really
Yeah.
love it when people like attack me and stuff. So, I mean, I should. I do want to teach, and I'm kind of like working in the background. I've been working on like developing like very comprehensive and broad-minded philosophy in general, and including as pertaining to astrology. And I do love to share it. I'm very passionate about sharing my ideas. But my inability to kind of like keep my emotional cool when people are like disrespectful to me or rude to me, or like I get very reactive to things that I feel like are because like I grew up in a family with people who are all basically diagnosed with either borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder.
Wow.
And I was very abusive growing up, to the point where like my reality was getting attacked every single moment of my development.
Wow.
So that is also why I'm kind of good at doing objective testing, but I have to go away from the situation first, because when I'm in it, I get like too flustered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when I step away, I've like, that's my reaction to everything that I find upsetting is research. I do like I go into like a deep, I study it. So which is also why I've developed this kind of like idea about how to do reality testing with astrology, because there are markers of things, like if you want to look at like a Mars, Neptune, Mercury, like those three things dancing with each other, particularly in negative ways, can talk about particularly like gaslighting and kind of like, because it's like force on the
Mm.
thinking and illusion. And
So you're saying in a horary chart.
in any chart.
Okay, okay. Mars,
Yeah.
Neptune, Mercury. That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Where,
Yeah.
where you're talking, forcefully about something, but there's like Neptune, like what's real, what's not is in question, basically.
Yep. And if you look at like the houses those are occupied by in your natal chart, for example, you can see what dynamics are there for you in your natal chart, or even like how it relates to sun being, I like to think of sun as like literally just like the light of consciousness. Like, what is the quality of your consciousness? Where is it? Where is its attention focused?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so I don't know. I just like, it's part of the reason I'm so freaking verbose is because I don't see any one situation in a particular way. And I don't even really relate to the concept of being right or not. Like, because I'm
Mhm.
like holding all the perspective, Pisces ascendant. I'm like holding trying to do the universal perspective on everything all the time. And that's
Yeah,
just
like
like too
you
much.
could say everything is right all like a Pisces could say, because every chart sees through different eyes, like we are all correct at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah. It's just a perspective. Have you ever seen those cool sculptures that they make? They're like out of trash and like little figures and stuff. And if you look at it from the side, it just looks like this like crazy blob of trash. But
Mhm.
then if you go turn to the other angle, it's like an eagle or something, and it like looks like a really beautiful detailed thing. I think about that a lot when I think about like what truth is, or what, I'm like, it's all kind of perspective.
Mhm.
um but I also, as a side note, philosophically, I don't like it when people do a thing called equivocating, which is sort of saying, because there are multiple perspectives of truth, truth is unknowable and everyone just gets to have their own reality.
Mhm.
Because in the etymology of the word reality is sort of like it has to do with Ray, like of the king.
Mhm.
And what it implies is like reality isn't personal, it's by definition it is shared. And so I think it's like, again, there's like always the paradox, right? Like there are individual perspectives, but there is a shared reality that we have, and there are ways to assess a reality in that way, in a somewhat objective manner.
Well, yeah, you can say you like if I said I believe 1 plus 1 is 4, that's my perception, and you said, well, 1 plus 1 is 2. Like there are some things that are factual or linear or shared realities, like where we all have to accept that 1 plus 1 equals 2 in order for bridges to get built and like people to drive safely down the street, right? But there's
Mm-hmm.
some things that are subjective that we all could have a different reality and everything would still function, right? Like
Right.
what are
Yeah.
those, like shared realities versus subjective realities, or
Yeah. Well, I just think it all coexists. And it's like with my conflict, what I feel like they are not able to see about my perspective, like I feel like they think I'm just attacking them,
Mhm.
And also, like, why are you trying to prove tropical? We already know it's not real, blah, blah, blah. But my perspective is not that they're bad people or that they were trying to be evil or anything. The way that people were speaking about tropical in that group, in that context, is the norm of the group. So everybody was actually behaving according to social norms and behaving in good faith from their own perspective, which I acknowledge and actually honor. And again, don't think anybody was a bad person or even trying to be shitty. However, some people did kind of cross the line into being disrespectful and blaming, and then didn't make any attempt to like see my perspective at all, and just were like, you're bad, like you're doing the bad thing. So that, again, that's why I take my toys and go home when that kind of stuff happens, because I've never been in a conflict with a person or a group where their assessment was you're 100% wrong, that like more talking did anything. So if somebody says, I'm hurt about the interaction we're having, and like I want to understand your perspective more, okay, well, that's a repair attempt. We can move forward from there. But if the perception is you disrupted stuff, you're hysterical for being upset, this entire conflict is your fault, you're the only one fighting, it's not fighting to call someone ignorant and or to call their thing that they're doing ignorant and delusional, that's not offensive, and you're crazy for saying it's offensive. If that's the thing, I'm just kind of like, I don't actually want to fight. And so I'm just going to withdraw. And that's what I did. So I wasn't, but I also didn't withdraw because I wanted to punish anybody. I just can't emotionally handle being in conflict like that. And I don't want to feel like I'm getting ganged up on. And I don't want to like debate
So
whether or not I'm like insane for feeling like that hurt my feelings.
yeah, totally. I hear you there. So did you use then Horary to try to decide what happened, or like how did you use Horary to
Right.
discuss the reality
Okay.
of?
So let's actually, I'll kind of like go through the process real quick so we can see what I
Did you
did.
kind of devise this process to use Horary to be like, what was the truth of the situation? Or I mean, yeah.
So, okay. So step one, I described the facts. Like, I'm just like, okay, what happened with who? And this is important to do also because it helps with identifying significators, so details like online,
Mhm.
astrology, group, community, conflict, like a verbal conflict, philosophical conflict with these people and with moderators. So that's like a power position. So we can kind of like, and then so once I have those things, first I wrote, oh, I just got it out. Like, what's my narrative? What's my perspective about what happened? And then once I've had that all written out, I try to do the same thing for the other people. If I'm being as generous and objective as possible from their perspective, what is their narrative?
Mhm.
Not, and at this point, you're not like determining things about it or judging it. You're just like, what objectively, like, if I'm as generous as possible, like, how can I understand their perspective? So you have those two things. And then once you've like thoroughly reflected and you feel like you understand what your assessment, because that's the assessment part, right? Now that I fully understand what my assessment of the conflict is, this is when you ask the question. So it's like when you have the understanding, you're like, oh, it's X o'clock, and then you actually cast the chart for that moment, not at the beginning of the process, because it's like, this is actually based on an old-timey horary rule of like sleeping on it or something.
Mhm.
So you want to like make sure it's all in there,
Mhm.
and then yeah, for trying to think, this could come before or later, but like, like I said, I kind of started working on a glossary of like, I looked up cognitive distortions and logical fallacies and perception. What was that? Perception and attribution errors. Kind of like stuff like that are like known psychological concepts that have clear definitions. So, like, for example, a straw man fallacy would be when you attack someone's argument by reducing it to a kind of like ridiculous, like overly simplified version of it that's like easy to attack, hence straw man. The opposite of that is steel man. So like that's when you try to look at the other person's argument and like argue for it as like an exercise to see if you can like actually debate what they're doing, or understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Wait, you made these up?
No, these are existent concepts.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So so cognitive distortions is a like for anybody who's been forced into DBT, CBT, that's kind of like a general therapy idea. And I have lots to say about those therapies in general as being kind of carceral and shitty. But this particular definitions of cognitive distortions here. Wait, I have this. Okay, different page. Okay, so cognitive distortions are stuff like all or nothing black and white thinking, overgeneralization, having like a selective filter, like there's only kind of one thing that you're willing to see about something, rejecting all positive and only focusing on the negative, jumping to conclusions, catastrophizing, so like blowing things up really huge, and then or the opposite of that, minimizing, like being dismissive and minimizing, emotional reasoning. I guess I don't need to list all of these, but like, there's that kind of stuff. And then as far as logical fallacies, there are like, wait, hold on. Okay. So ad hominem is when you attack the person instead of their argument, so like, you're like, you're ugly or you're hysterical or whatever. Straw man, I already said. Doing a false dichotomy, like turning something into like, that's also kind of a black and white, right? You're like, it's either this or that, and then you argue about that, and that might not even be what the person is saying. A slippery slope is sort of saying like, if this, then this other, like if you allow gay marriage, people are gonna want to marry their dog. Like that's like a slippery slope.
That one you said a few ago, that's what happens to me when people get mad at me. Then they're like, she's chubby. Like I don't know what you call that, but like they're fine with my belly when I'm like putting them on camera. And then if we have to like take them off camera, they're like, oh, you're too fat or like, what is that called? What is that called?
It's called ad hominem, which is, Latin. But it just means like whole person attack, like attack of the person.
That doesn't actually happen out loud. That's just what I psychically feel like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm like, that would be, that's bad behavior in my opinion.
Yeah.
So circular reasoning is another one, here, since I haven't said something controversial in a minute. Circular reasoning is trans women are women because they're women.
Wait, what?
Like when a definition is like, if you say that a definition is defined by the definition, that's called circular reasoning.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So like you haven't actually made a point. You've just said like apples are apples because they're made of apple.
Oh my God. Did you see how you overstim me there? I actually made a circular tick motion from that. I was like so overstim from that. And that was so cool.
Well, I'm really having a hard time masking right now. So another one is
go ahead and tick on camera. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh my God, it could be so much worse. Another one is appeal to authority. So like either saying that, like saying your argument is true because you have authority or that you have like proximity to authority,
Okay.
Appeal to emotion. That one's kind of obviously, to quote, I can't even say it.
These are all ways people deal with conflict.
Yeah, well, they're all logical fallacies. So like logical fallacies is a concept from like debate, basically. So like fallacy meaning false, so it's sort of like false logic mechanisms that people use, whether they know they're doing it or not, they're like identifiable kind of things. Like, I can't say the Latin of this one, so I'm just going to call this one, I'm rubber and you're glue, and whatever I say bounces off of me and sticks to you. Like, it's
Yeah.
sort of like you're receiving, not an attack, but like in the debate, you're receiving a thing, and instead of addressing it directly, you say, well, or like if someone's like, you hurt my feelings, you would say, well, you hurt my feelings first.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like, I'm not fighting, you're fighting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Red herring, which is like a old timey communist reference, but it means to introduce irrelevant information as a distraction. So you're kind of sidestepping. Anyways, okay, so there's a lot of these, like, so I don't want to totally. The other category I want to name a few things from is relational dynamic patterns, which is this is something that can be really clear in a chart. So like projection, you know, and I think we all know what projection is. Displacement being kind of like, instead of owning your thing, you're attributing it to the other person or over there.
Mm-hmm.
Rationalizing, denial. Let's see. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So those are some of the, I guess I didn't say the, we'll be here all day if I name all the astrological things that they could be. But yeah, so basically, like, once you have your assessment and you've pulled up your chart, at that point, it might be good to kind of like, you can familiarize yourself with some of these concepts, and then like, kind of like be like, what, how am I seeing these things or not in the chart? So like one thing I mentioned was like the Mars Neptune kind of thing, or the, I mean, if you're going to use horary rules, primary testimony should come from the traditional planets, in my opinion. I think that's how I read in general, is to like, is to always base things on the traditional planets, but then use, I mean, because I love an insane amount of information. So like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, I like to see what the secondary sort of testimony of outer planets, asteroids. I love me some midpoints. Hey, Sabian symbols, what do we got? Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly where it was, but the Cassandra, do you know the Cassandra myth?
No.
So the Cassandra myth is basically like, Cassandra was like a fortune teller or a seer or whatever, who saw a catastrophe and warned everybody, and then they told her she was like a hysterical bee and she should shut up or whatever. And then, of course she was right, but by the time she was right, it's not very fun to be right when everybody's like, the world burns down or the asteroid hits or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but the Cassandra myth is about that thing of being like, speaking a truth that nobody wants to hear, and then kind of getting attacked for saying the uncomfortable thing.
That was like my whole Valence translation. Okay, time check. We have 4 minutes. Just
my gosh. Okay. All right. Let's just complete the description of the process then. Okay. So, oops, wrong page. Okay. So yeah, you're going to look at like, one of the big things is sort of like who's in whose house. Like, for example, the ascendant of this chart was at like 29.5 degrees Aquarius. And now, okay, well, I want to say a thing about considerations, but that's fine. That was really actually interesting, because it's like, yeah, the thing is kind of over already, and I'm doing like a post-mortem, so that checks. And you also, like, one of the first things you want to do is see, like, does this chart even look like the conflict? This chart had a Mars-Mercury conjunction in the 9th house. So check, like, hello, like, for sure. As the querent, I am represented by both Moon and Saturn. Saturn was in the 1st house, but like in Regiomontanus, it would have been, which I did do it this way, even though I actually usually read whole sign, but whatever. I read it that way this time. So it was in Pisces, obviously, because I'm in Pisces right now, conjunct Neptune. So it's like I'm confused, I'm unsure of what's happening, and then for their significators, I thought of two actually. Seventh house being Leo, so like the sun, which I think matches up with like the authority part of the situation. And then the third house was ruled by Venus. And I think that also matches up as the like communication, like friend like online community kind of part.
Mm-hmm.
So and then Venus was also like squaring the ascendant. So it's like there's like the conflict. You could see where the conflict is there. So, however, my significator was, and both the moon in the chart and both significators of me was ruled by an exalted Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of is like a little bit like, I mean, it, it's sort of like, and the closest. So another thing to look at is what is the tightest aspect,
Okay,
and
we have 1 minute.
Mercury.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But do you want people to be able to find you, or do you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I don't really post a lot of stuff, so
Well, and
um
also, do you want to do a series like the Jael Lab series?
yeah. I mean, cuz like I was trying to think about like what would work with how I am, and cuz I'm a little bit like, how do you hold a moonbeam in your hand? Um and yeah, so I was thinking like, because I'm always like having ideas, and I also don't want to share my ideas publicly until they're like totally perfect if I'm presenting myself as like an expert. But
Mhm.
like, this is an exploration, and I kind of never feel like an expert, so it's like if I do that, I'm just never going to do anything. And like, I just wanted to say too, like with this process, the success at it is to have some clarity
Mhm.
about the situation for yourself, not to like use it as something crappy, which for me, it actually really helped me have clarity, because it verified that, like, what the dynamics were, and like what I was thinking about them and all that kind of stuff.
I'm
For
sorry to cut
finding
you
me,
off.
I do have a page on Instagram called Gnostic Mechanic, which again, I don't use a bunch, but I would like to use it more. I mean, I think I should start doing more stuff. And I really, by the way, appreciate both your encouragement and the platform that you give me. um, so,
Sure.
if people
Well,
like it, I can do that.
okay, cool. So find Jael at Gnostic Mechanic. But Jael, so hit me up and we'll figure out a series if we want to do it once a month or once every other week, or
Sure.
how you want to do that. I know that your chart has some special aspects to it. So yeah, just let me know. I think we could do a musing series where we do a lab and have you talk to us about different things. Sorry I have to rush out. I'm on a
No, it's
schedule.
okay.
All right. So thank you, Jael. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye.